Hey everyone, welcome back to Build. I'm your host, Brittany Jones Cooper. In Anna and the Apocalypse, a zombie apocalypse threatens the sleepy town of Little Haven at Christmas, forcing Anna and her friends to fight a never-ending attack from the living dead. This thriller is also a musical that is funny, gory, and heartfelt. Today I'm sitting down with star Ella Hunt, but first, here's a trailer from Anna and the Apocalypse.
'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. Young Anna was nestled, all snug in her bed, not knowing tomorrow she'd meet the undead. How would she survive what this season would bring? Well, that's simple. She'd stab, she'd slash, and she'd sing.
What?
Justin Bieber's a zombie.
Everyone put your hands together for Ella Hunt. How you doing today?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good.
How are you?
I'm good. 'Tis the season for zombie holiday movies, so
Yep.
I'm feeling good. I was just telling you, I watched the movie without watching the trailer first, and let me tell you guys, it's really shocking. Because it starts off like your standard sort of teen movie.
Yeah, you think you might be watching a John Hughes movie. And then you're like, oh, there's some singing. Okay. I've seen this before. And then I skip out the door with my headphones on, and behind me there's a zombie apocalypse, and you're like, what? What movie am I watching?
It takes a turn really quickly.
Yeah.
So for you, getting your hands on the script for the very first time, what was that experience like for you, flipping through those pages?
Bizarre. And then like really intriguing, because as an actor, you read so many scripts that there starts to become a pattern. You get kind of exhausted by your typical genre movies. And then this came through my inbox, and it was like, oh, this is something new. And I've been acting since I was 11, and when I was about 16, 17, started getting sent a whole bunch of kind of bullshit teenage girl roles, where the girl's in next to no clothing, always on her phone, bored with her life, bored with her family. And I just didn't feel like that was an accurate representation of like my experience of being a teenager. And Anna came through the door, and she was some of those cliches in that she was bored by her small town life. She wanted to get out of that, but she was so much more. The script left her room to be all the other things that a teenage girl can be, and that was so exciting to see, and so exciting to see that two men had written that character as well.
What is your favorite thing about Anna, or what words would you use to describe her? Because you're right, she doesn't kind of fall into the trappings of your typical teen.
I love that she's sassy and badass and smart, but she's also vulnerable, unsure, and dependent on her friends. And I love that the movie glorified friendship instead of teenage romance. And that she, I mean, this is a bit of a spoiler, but she doesn't run off into the sunset with a guy. And to see that in a movie, I have very rarely watched movies where we don't wait for our heroine to fall into the arms of someone else.
Instead, she runs up in the sunset with a zombie. I'm joking.
I mean, there are, yeah, I mean, sort of.
Let's talk about the musical part of this, because that for me was one of the most pleasant surprises, was the music and the lyrics, and they're just so funny, but also so on point. And the music is also from a lot of different genres.
Yeah, so Roddy Hart and Tommy Riley wrote the music, and they are both fantastic Scottish musicians in their own right. And when they got asked to do the music for Anna and the Apocalypse, they were really excited about exploring all the genres that as pop writers weren't presumed cool. So like there's an 80s power ballad in the movie about destroying zombie skulls. And a Santa Baby-esque number where my best friend, she's actually my best friend in real life as well, comes out on stage and sings this innuendo-filled Christmas song, it's my favorite song in the movie, it always was. And then there's a song in the movie about connectivity as well. It's called Human Voice, and it's this beautiful ballad. And I was so attracted to how well the lyrics had been written as well, because as an actor, it's just like, it's more to play with. It's more internal dialogue. And music has been a massive part of my life. So to get to play with that in the context of playing a person like Anna was just the bestest fun.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what is your musical background? Because you do a lot of heavy lifting in this film. You're in most of the scenes, and you're singing and you're dancing. So what kind of prep work did you do for that?
So I did singing lessons as a kid and have played the piano since I was very young. And when I was about 11, I'm quite dyslexic and was really struggling with reading sheet music. And so I started writing my own music instead, because just my ear was how I was learning. And so music has been really, really imperative to kind of my teenage years. I've always used songwriting as a way of kind of processing what's going on in my head. And like, even when I'm playing a character, I always make a character playlist. So Anna had one. I've got one at the moment for the show that I'm working on. And so it was exciting to me to work on a project where music and acting was going hand in hand.
Wait, musical playlist. Is this something I can follow, like on Spotify?
I didn't have Spotify at the time. And like I've tried to find the playlists since then. But there was some classical music on there. There was a lot of the Anna songs on there because just they by necessity, they needed to be on there. I had an Owl Nation song on there called Sail, which was like to get myself pumped before the fight scenes. Those are the ones I remember.
Let's talk about the fight scenes and the choreography. How much prep time did you get for that? Because some of them are pretty intense.
Okay, so this movie was made for very little money and very little time. We made this movie over 5 weeks in Scotland 2 years ago. And a lot of the songs and the fight sequences, we choreographed 10 minutes before shooting. So the sequence when I come out of my door and put my headphones on, Sarah Swire, who plays Steph in the movie and is also our choreographer, she's a superhuman. I don't know how she slept on that shoot. I don't think she did. We turned up half an hour before shooting and skipped up and down the street that I skipped down and just worked out what was going to feel comfortable in my body. And there was this moment where she was like, I think maybe you could do like a hop, skip, and a jump out of the door to really elevate that stop in the music before you start singing. And so I tried it for her, and I thought I'd done kind of a good job. And she was like, that was awful. Never do that again. And then I can do a high kick. It's one of my only physical things I can do that I'm kind of proud of. And I had been trying throughout this whole shoot to get my high kick in there. And that same day, it was our last day of shooting, I was like, Sarah said to me, there's this moment where you can do whatever you want to do. Just go crazy. Whatever you would do if you were skipping through a cemetery and no one knew you were looking. No one was looking at you. And so I was like, I'm going to do my high kick, right? And it's made it into the trailer and it's made it into the movie, and I'm kind of chuffed about it.
That scene is for the song Turning My Life Around?
Yes.
Which I think will be the quintessential scene from this movie.
Yes, I think it might be.
One of where she's dancing, just talking about a brand new day, and zombies are just killing everybody behind her. And she's oblivious.
Yeah, it's a brand new day, and I'm miles away. I am miles away, and right behind me there's a zombie apocalypse.
So tell me about shooting in Scotland, because I understand that you guys shot in like the dead of winter.
Yeah, the dead of winter. Dead was the winter. It was freezing cold. We shot in February, and we were shooting in this very beautiful, kind of old run-down town, half an hour outside of Glasgow, next to a loch. So really beautiful scenery, but also like super industrial buildings, which I really liked as somebody who's grown up watching American high school movies about kids that live in like picture perfect neighborhoods, suburban neighborhoods. I found our location really refreshing and slightly more honest to a lot of people's experience of growing up. And I felt like it elevated that feeling of like, oh God, I want to get out of here.
It did feel like this little insular town that you understood where she
Yeah.
was like, I need to go travel.
And
a
that
little
school that we were shooting in, we got really lucky. We found this school that had just closed down. Half of it had asbestos. So we weren't allowed to go in that half.
That's why it closed down.
Yeah, but we had the other half, and the other half was fantastic. And we had this gym downstairs that we really made use of. And the boys had been collecting Nerf guns before the shoot. And so as a physical warm-up, Sarah, our choreographer, decided that we would go down to the gym every morning and stick on ridiculous music like Sail and have Nerf gun fights.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Was that fun being surrounded? I mean, the entire cast is young and just fun. That must have been like summer camp.
So when I got this movie, I was 17, 18 and had a strange kind of collection of teenage experiences because I'd been working and moving from school to school, and I didn't really have a peer group and really wanted one. And when I got to this set, I just basically inherited this family, and they've all become my best friends. And so it's a fun film to watch for me because every time Marley comes on screen and does her Santa Baby-esque number, she has this moment where this snowflake falls onto her eyelid and she just flicks it off. And I just want to scream, yes, queen!
I remember that scene. I was like, that was so cool.
Oh, she's so
She really does
cool.
give it in that scene. It was very Mean Girls, you know, in the auditorium.
But it's also kind of Marilyn Monroe.
Yes, yes. And her face even kind of looked like Marilyn. I had that same thought.
She's kind of one of my favorite parts of that movie.
Yeah, I love that. And her character is also really funny.
Yeah.
And her love story.
Yes.
So you mentioned that you watched a lot of high school sort of teen dramas, and I know that the beginning of this movie was actually inspiration by Ryan McHenry watching High School Musical and seeing that and being like, you know what would make this better? Zombies. So
The only thing that would make this good is if Zac Efron was eaten by zombies.
So Ryan unfortunately died over the last couple of years, but his friends rallied together and helped to make this happen. So does that make it even a bigger deal for you that you guys are getting to bring this man's kind of story to life?
No, it's been a beautiful experience, and I think it's been a healing experience for Ryan's friends. And no, we're all so proud to be promoting this film that has that backstory and that we're all so emotionally invested in.
Yeah.
But it's been awesome just to meet and connect with genre fans. Like we've been so welcomed into this community, and we're all so grateful.
And what is the genre though? Because it's sort of
It's so many.
thriller, musical, comedy. It's a zom-com, a lot of people are saying.
Zom-com is a weird word to me, but yes. It's a horror, it's a musical, it's a zombie movie, it's a whole bunch of things, but people have been overwhelmingly positive. And the nicest is when people come up to me and they're like, I love musicals, but I hate horror movies and I enjoyed this. Or I love horror movies, but I hate musicals and I enjoyed this. That's been really cool.
And you mentioned that you've been acting for over 10 years. Have you done musicals in the past, or is that something you want to do more of?
I was actually in the 2012 adaptation of Les Miserables. I heard that they were making it into a film, and I was like, I called my agent, and I was like, I know I'm too old for Little Cosette, and I know I'm too young for Eponine, but please get me in for one of the roles in it. And he got me in for this tiny part. And I went in with Nina Gold to audition and sang for her. And I got a call the next morning saying I wasn't ragged enough. And then like a week before they were due to shoot that scene, they were like, we need an extra person. Someone's dropped out. Do you want to come and shoot? I was like, yes, I want to come and shoot. But I was only on that for like 3 days, so I'm not sure it entirely counts. But this is my first musical where I'm playing a lead. And it's also my first original musical. And I was really excited to get to do something with original music.
Yeah, that's so exciting. And I understand you grew up sort of in like a rural part of town, and so
no town was near. Like, you look out the window and there's nothing for miles. I grew up in the middle of nowhere on a farm with a family of artists.
That's amazing. So did you always want to act?
I always wanted to perform. I always wanted to do creative things because all my family were in the arts. So as a small child, I just was skipping around the house in a pink tutu trying to put on performances for anyone who'd listen. And then acting happened very randomly for me. I was doing a school play of the Mikado, the Gilbert and Sullivan musical, and I was really disappointed that I hadn't been cast as one of the three little maids from school, are we, girls. I'd been cast as Katusha, who's this like ugly, evil, fat old woman. And I was thinking, why have I been cast as that? So I was wearing a fat suit and a kimono, and I didn't know that the boy I was playing opposite's dad was an agent, and he approached my mum afterwards and said, does she want to act? So that's where acting started for me.
I love that. And do you live in New York now?
I do live in New York. I'm shooting my first American TV show.
Yeah, so tell me about that experience. One, moving to New York, I'm sure is very different from where you grew up.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very different. It's a total sensory overload. I had no idea I loved bagels so much. God.
H&H, have you had H&H bagel?
No. I mean, I've just had the local place around the corner from me is amazing. Maybe I need to expand my bagel horizons.
No, honestly, all bodegas are good bodegas, really, when it comes to bagels. You can't go wrong.
Good. Moving to New York has been crazy, but it's a show called Dickinson that I'm working on with Haley Steinfeld and Jane Krakowski, and it's written by this incredible woman, Elena Smith, and I'm playing Haley's best friend, and we're just having the best time.
Yeah. Is that all you can? I want to know more. Like, it's so secretive. I know that it's on Apple.
Yes, it's for Apple.
Yeah. And
there's like so little
there's
I
so
can tell
little you
you.
can say. When is it going to be available for us to see, though?
I don't know.
Sometime in 2019.
Fingers crossed. I literally don't know.
That's fair. I also think it's really cool. You're acting and you're doing this musical, but your music is something you mentioned is really important to you.
Yeah.
So you're actually working on some original music.
Yeah, I'm recording an album at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm super excited. It's when I was about 15, I had quite a few people tell me that I couldn't do both. And now I'm 20 and I think I've grown some sass, and now I'm like, I'm gonna do both. So yeah, I'm working on a whole bunch of original songs and putting them down and enjoying discovering what that's gonna be.
Are there other artists out there who really inspire you who maybe do both?
I mean, being around Haley is awesome because she does both. She's the best advocate for that at the moment. But there are so many actors that I know that do both now, actually. In terms of like musical influences, I'm super influenced by Joni Mitchell. And I grew up listening to a lot of jazz, so there's kind of jazz influences in there as well.
I love that. Would you ever want to write your own musical?
I have thought about that quite a lot, actually, because a lot of the music I wrote, I was in my early teens, and they're very like young teenage girl narrative songs. But actually, I'd love to write a musical at some point in my life. The album, I think, is first stop for me. But yeah, it's definitely, I mean, the sky's the limit.
Yeah. Either way, I'll be listening.
Thanks.
Whenever it comes out. 2019, maybe.
Thanks.
Okay. Let's go to the audience really quick for some questions. Who do we have first?
Hi, how are you? So on the topic of zombie apocalypse and musicals, I wanted to know if you had to sing your way out of a zombie attack, which song would you choose?
That's such a good question. Oh my God. I mean, I feel like singing something really high and horrible would put the zombies right off. What other songs? Some kind of like rocky ballad. I love The Beatles' Come Together. That's just always been a favorite of mine. And there's something about that where I feel like you want to stand with your feet beneath your shoulders and just be like, I'm here. I'm going to kill you.
With a candy cane.
With a candy cane.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spoiler. Little spoiler.
Little spoiler. I mean, it's not a spoiler, isn't?
Yeah, that's true. I guess I should have just looked at the photo in between us. Next question.
Hi.
Hi.
So I'm a huge fan of zombie movies. I think zombies are the monsters that have the most fun with like horror comedies. So I'm just wondering, what are some of your favorite zombie movies that helped inspire your role?
Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. Oh my God, I love that movie. It's got like two of my favorite things: costume dramas and zombies. And also Lily James, who I think is a total goddess, and she just bosses that movie. And I was really influenced by her. Shaun of the Dead, obviously, especially as a British person, like person, especially as a Brit, like Shaun of the Dead is a real favorite. I think those two are my favorites.
And I got a Shaun of the Dead vibe from this too, which was really fun. Like there were some,
Definitely nod to Shaun.
I love it. And we have one last question before we go.
Hi. So I saw the movie and it's so much fun. I loved it so much. And throughout it, I saw how energetic and charismatic everybody was. So I was wondering if there's any like the funniest moment that happened behind the scenes of the film.
Oh God, there were so many ridiculous moments. One of them, so Sarah's character, Steph, originally didn't have a prop. And then we were on set one day and there was just this severed mannequin's leg that was lying around, and she was like, I take this as my weapon. And she named it Tina. And now she has a tattoo of Tina on her leg. Malcolm, who plays John, originally thought that Soldier at War, which is this fantastic 80s ballad where this guy is singing about being amazing at killing zombies, thought that that was John's song. He thought that John had a moment of like utter strength, and then we all had to break it to him that no, it's not John's song. And so I'm extremely clumsy, so there were a lot of stories on set about how me hitting people with my candy cane accidentally. But there was one especially where we'd been shooting a really intense scene all day, and then at the end of the day they were like, we've actually got to shoot this slow-mo bit where you're walking away from that scene where I'm killing lots of zombies, and I'm really angry at that point. And I'm like, well, we don't have enough time. And they're like, we're gonna have to make enough time because this is the last opportunity we have in this location. And so we've rehearsed it through once, and it's a bit of a dance between me and the camera, this one, because it's on a steady cam. Steady cam's walking backwards as I'm walking forwards, destroying zombies either side of the camera. And so we've rehearsed it once, and then like, we have to go for one. We just have to go for it because we don't have enough time. So I'm like, okay, we'll give it a go. And nobody's told me that I'm gonna be squirted with blood. And so I go for the first hit, and I get a chunk of blood on my shoulder, and I'm like, what? Blood? And I go for the next hit, and I survive the blood. It hits my ear. And then I go for this final big hit where I swing my candy cane around my head, and I get this whole chunk of blood in my face. And I hit the camera, and the matte box went down, the set went silent, and then there's a blooper of me doing that and then saying a swear word, which I shouldn't say.
They should have told you that blood was coming your way.
They absolutely should have told me.
Yes. Well, it looks like you guys had so much fun. Hearing these stories is hilarious, but watching it, I could feel how much fun you guys had. It was such a ride for me. So, guys, if you want to check out Anna and the Apocalypse, and
it's a tongue twister.
If you want to check out Anna and the Apocalypse, it is in theaters now. Give it up for Ella Hunt.
Thank you.